guys, so we're back. This time it's Lisa and I. Aw, love her.
Hi guys.
So we had posted up probably like 2 weeks ago a question, and we wanted to ask who had any questions about friendships, because we wanted to share our story of our friendship and the journey that we've been on together. So we titled it Two Sides to Each Story. So I guess I will begin. And there was a season where Lisa and I were like butt buddies, and we did everything together. Our lives were scheduled around each other
For years.
for a long time. and then Lisa went to Australia, and in those 4 years we still kept in contact, not as often, but when she came home it was about each other, because we knew we had to take advantage of the time we had together. And then but we were always friends throughout everything. And when she came back from college, at that point I was her only friend. Yes. Not negative. It just happened. It just
everybody
happened.
Was gone from my life. So yeah.
By that point, it was just that I kind of held on to her the whole time that she was in Australia, and she made so many amazing friends out there. But you know, they didn't all live here at home. So
No.
sadly, right? None of them were from New York or New Jersey. And so in that season, we always had each other. So there was never a time that I didn't have Lisa in my life. And then Lisa got a boyfriend.
Dun dun dun.
And our lives changed. And I think in the beginning, what made it challenging was that we didn't see, or I felt some type of way, which is every feeling that causes why friendships break apart, is feelings and things that were not discussed. And so I've shared this with Ellen, so I'll share it now. But I felt like he was very prideful, and so I was like, oh, I don't want to be a part of this. And so I separated myself and kind of didn't reach out to her as often as I used to. We didn't hang out. She was on a different thing. Everything was different at that point, because now she was in a relationship. I wasn't.
Like our lives kind of
drifted apart. Yeah. She was in a relationship, and I was still single Amarilis, having a good time, living my life. And that's what it was. And so I would say, I don't even know how much time went by. But I know that I know
a few months.
It was a while.
It was like probably, because like we were always friends. Like we always like loved each other and stuff like that. But we just went through a season of like, we weren't seeing eye to eye, like you said, and we just didn't really understand. And we were young too, so it was like just a season of like, wow, everything, like we don't have everything in common anymore, and we didn't know how to handle that. But it went on, I think, until I really got engaged almost. Yeah. That was probably like
I think I teared up when she got engaged, because I think at that point I realized, oh my God, I just missed so much of her life that I didn't even know that this was going to happen. Like I had no warning, and I was like, I can't believe that we're at this point right now. And so I had went away, and I remember that I was, of course, because constantly talking to God, and I felt like I really missed our friendship. And so at that point I realized that it didn't matter what I felt. It didn't matter my opinions of what her life was like, because I knew that I loved her. And what I loved about Lisa was being her friend and being a part of her life, because we had went through everything together. And you know those people that you have gone through everything. So it's kind of like you reach a point that it's like, how can I not have this person in my life? And then it became, let me put my feelings to the side and care about the person, because at the end of the day I cared about Lisa with everything, because of how close we had enjoyed each other's life for so long. And it ended up being, because God is so good, that we had community groups. And so by this point in our church, we had to purposefully do life together. We were meeting once a week through our I groups, and through that a whole nother side came out of LM that I fell in love with him too, because it was more so that it changed from looking at him as an individual and looking at him like, wow, they're gonna do life together and he's gonna be my brother just like Lisa's my sister. And I had to love him for him, because at the end of the day, we're all on a journey and we're all growing. We're all on different stages of our lives. And actually we had a point where even God was able to mend our relationship because we talked about it. Yeah. We talked about why I felt some type of way. Mm-hmm. He apologized, and it ended up being that that's all it took for us to be able to do life again together. And now it's been beautiful. But I think a part of it was being humble, being able to address things, being honest, because that's the only way you're going to ever be able to mend any relationship, is being honest. Mm-hmm. And being able to love each other because they're who they are.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel good to get off my chest.
She said. Yeah, no, totally. That was it. Like, I mean, our story was high school. We were best friends forever. And then, right, like I went to Australia, felt like 5 minutes, yeah, came right back, and it was like picked up right again. Mm-hmm. And then yeah, it's always like, I think that's how it goes for like most girlfriends out there that have been friends forever. Like, one of you is gonna get a boyfriend first, yeah, unless like the angels come down and you both get a boyfriend at the same time and they're best friends, and then it all just flows together. But you know, like, and in that moment when that happens, it's really tough for, I think, both. And one of the things for me that Amarilis touched on already, but for me to kind of understand more, okay, how are we going to get this relationship back, was putting myself in her shoes. And I thought, okay, if she was the one that got a boyfriend first, how would I feel? And it is hard. I mean, because when you're building a new relationship with someone, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of work. And Ella and I's relationship was very different from the beginning, and we were together a lot from the very beginning, and so that's hard. And you know, I understand, like, it's like, yo, you kind of took like my boo, like, yeah, in a way, and it's a very like real feeling, and I like, you would feel really alone, you know. It's like when your best friend like gets another best friend, kind of, and you're like, I don't know what you think you're doing, but that's my best friend, you know. Yeah, absolutely. So that was one, because in the beginning I was tempted to feel, it's just getting in your feelings, like she touched on already. But like, you know what, well, that's not really fair, because like, what if you got a boyfriend first, you know, and then I would have been in that position, and then you think like, oh, I would have handled it so much better. Like, no, I probably wouldn't have. And when I really started to think about that, and then I was listening to something somewhere, I have no idea what it was, but it was about conflict. And it was saying that the next time you're in a conflict, just take full responsibility for the issue. If you want to get over it, just say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to treat this like everything was my fault, and forgive, or ask for forgiveness, and let's say, like, let's move on and just try to bridge that gap. So, and like Amarilis said already, which he really summed up everything, but you just have to weigh it up. Like, what's more important? Like, staying in your feelings and holding a grudge, or like having your point heard, or being the right one, or mending something that was just so beautiful and God-given. Like, God totally gave us each other to do life with, you know, and we really have been like key parts in each other's lives forever. And I can't imagine not having her. I remember thinking, we were planning our wedding and thinking like, Amarilis needs to be with me. And like, it was a time where, you know, they weren't on the same page, but I was like, she needs to be there. I remember like drove to her house with a little card that said like, be my bridesmaid. Yeah, and we were still in a season that we were like not really there yet. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I don't know, like, I just can't picture that day without her. Like, I don't even care if they don't even like each other. Like, she's got to be there. And so, and the funny thing is that like, God will always honor your sacrifice, because now like, they're friends, you know, like they even like enjoy each other's company, which is just amazing for me. Like, that makes me feel awesome, because my two like most important people, if they didn't get along, you know, I would find a way to do it. Like, I would feel like, okay, like, let's just make it work. But you know, I get it. You know, relationships, your spouse comes first in a way. I get that. I completely respect that. But then you also need, like, your girls, you know? Like, your girl time is so important. And if, you know... And LM never told me, like, you know, I don't want you around her or I don't want you to be with her. It was like I kind of had freedom to go to be with either one of them. So, you know, don't let your man tell you no, you can't hang out with your girls. That's not nice.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's pretty much the story. Do you want to answer a question like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we did get one question. And it says, my question is, when one friend is always forgiving and willing to restore, yet the other friend's stubbornness may hold them back from restoring. So that's the question there. You typically give them space, yet is that effective? Okay, so that's the second question. So we'll answer that first question first. When one friend is always forgiving and willing to restore, yet the other one's stubbornness may hold them back from restoring. I mean, I think you can only do so much. Like, you know what? That actually sums it up perfectly. Because what I wanted to say was, my part is me. My part is not thinking about what she thinks. My part is not judging her. My part is not, you know, anything to do with her. My part is, what did Lisa do wrong? How can Lisa make Lisa better? And how can Lisa love Amarilis better? That was it for me. And if, you know, I chose to reach out to Amarilis and she didn't want to reciprocate the feeling, there's truly nothing else I can. You're not meant to be a doormat to anybody.
It's true. It takes two people to be able to mend any kind of relationship. So if one party is trying so hard, they're going to try so hard by themselves.
Yeah, that's never...
So it's not possible. Unless God softens their heart.
Yeah. I think, you know, you can always be there for that person. You can always, you know, if ever I've always said, I've had a few friends that things just fell off, and they ever called me and said, like, yo, at least I need you, I'm like on the side of the road, something, I would be there, you know, but I'm not letting it consume me or anything like that, hold any bitterness. No one's got time for that. Too blessed to be stressed.
Just do your part.
Yeah, just do your part. And let stubborn Betty live in her ways. You typically give them space, yet is that effective? Was the question. But yeah, I think space is all you can really give.
Yeah.
But it's tough. That's a tough one. Alright, so then my second question is, when time has passed and they feel they want to reconnect but don't address the issues or admit their faults, how do you address that behavior in the friendship? How would you use wisdom and apply yourself to loving them yet maintaining a healthy boundary? That's a good one too. I mean, I think again, like, you're not a doormat to anybody, and you need to just use wisdom in your relationships. Like, is this person like taking advantage of you, you know, or are they just immature? And they, like, really, when we first like hung out again, we never really like sat down and were like, okay, we went through a really awkward season and like we never really addressed it in that way. But I think it really was like an emotional thing, you know, like it really was really, I guess, heavy for both of us. You know, it wasn't something that either one of us were like happy to go through at all. Yeah. But I think and we had such a deep friendship before that, that just coming together, and then like as we were ready, like layers would come off and we would maybe talk about one of the things like over lunch sometime, or like things would just come out and be like, you know what, like I actually felt like this way about LM. Because I didn't even know that, like, she really didn't like... I had, like, the feeling that maybe it was something with Ellen that she didn't like, or was it just the idea of me with the boyfriend? But it, like, layers were starting to come up where I'm like, okay, like, that was why that happened, and that was why that happened. So I think every relationship is different. Like, every friendship is different.
Yeah.
And everybody is different, but, yeah.
I don't... We never forced it.
Yeah.
It happened very naturally. And I think a good part is that because Lisa was getting married, it kind of gave us an excitement of something that we could do together. Mm-hmm. And because she included me, it made me feel a part of it. So at that point, we didn't have to address what the issue was, because I was more so at the end of the day excited that we were going to do something together. because I had missed that bond that I had with my sister.
Yeah.
And so that was what was more important at the moment. And when it was time, everything else came out in its proper time. I'm so big on not forcing things that don't have to come out automatically, because if your heart's intentions is that you're mending a friendship because you care about the person, all those other pieces, they're gonna line up. Unless you're super offended by something that they hurt you, but we didn't hurt each other or
there
say
was like
mean things.
Exactly, nothing like spirited towards each other. We just kind of like
drifted apart.
Yeah, and if like I guess if that offense would have stayed like embittered in one of us or something, then it could have gotten way worse. But yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I love her.
Look at us, Ebony and Ivory. We're like twins. Oh my god, we look so much alike. It is weird.
Well, we hope you guys are encouraged by our story. Mend your relationship.
Yes, it's worth it.
It's worth it. If you feel like you've had somebody that you've done life with for a long time and you want them back, go for it. Don't waste another minute knowing that they're not going to be a part of your life. You're better together, 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Supplement gum. That'll be a pleasure to be your friend.
Ow. Thank you.
Love you guys.
Bye.